Hi everyone, welcome back to another edition of Platform and Possibilities. I'm your host, Corinne J. Phipps Benjamin, and I am here once again to be of service to you by presenting you, the listener, or listeners, with a special guest, a young gentleman by the name of Shirvon Greene. Obviously, when we come together to have these discussions, we aim to inform, to inspire, and to empower our listeners, right? So today we have with us Shirvon Greene. Shirvon is a young man who is now known as an assistant coach, track and field coach at Monroe College. He is the head of the cross country and coaching in Monroe College in New York, specifically the Bronx, New York. This young man has risen from being a student athlete to now being a professional coach. And so we offer a hearty welcome to Shirvon, Coach Greene, to Platform and Possibilities. Welcome, Shirvon. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening. It's a pleasure being here.
It is definitely a pleasure. You're making the rounds, Shirvon. You're making the headlines in terms of the work that you're doing, in terms of your impact in coaching. And it's important. I think it's important to get a sense of how you've progressed in the field of coaching, track athletes, and where you see the work that you've been doing. Where do you see your future in coaching? So before you got to Monroe College, I understand that you started out somewhere in Charlestown, Nevis. Tell us about being a young man in Charlestown and where the interest came from to run.
Well, I must say, everything that I was able to achieve and my level of focus would have came from my family, especially one particular person in general, which is my late grandmother, Miss Hyacinth Carey Thomas. Growing up, she was the driving force behind me in terms of making me be focused and always guiding me to the making right decisions, being able to help me to develop an interest in doing something that I would like to do. My extended family, such as my aunts, my uncles, of course, my mother and my father, they played a role as well in terms of being able to guide me through the journey while I was younger, in terms of encouraging me to be in certain programs. I mean, I started out with a lot of interest in basketball, which grew also into interest with track and field. So you would see some days I would be out on the Cuddy Road basketball court, and I would be over there as well as training back and forth with both track and field and basketball. And I must say, the whole community of Cuddy Road, I mean, it's too numerous to mention, but they are the ones. They were the driving force behind this whole journey. And I, growing up, having such a support system, I mean, down to the politicians, both opposition and in government, I was able to see where all these people invested in me growing up, guiding me the right way. So, what better way to give back than to contribute in a way that you could shape young people and being able to have them to develop as the way you did when you were growing up.
Wow, that's so powerful. I'm impressed, totally impressed, almost speechless to hear you speak about that journey and to see you prioritize mentioning the village. You know, we talk about it all the time, and here you are talking about your experience with the support system that you had. So kudos to all those who have helped to shape this wonderful young man that I have the opportunity to talk to, and everybody has the opportunity to hear. So, you know, once you saw that you had an interest in two sports were pretty much pulling at your heartstrings, you ended up in track and field, right? So tell us about track and field and your involvement in track and field in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Well, it started when I attended, and I know everybody who back in Nevis would know who I am in terms of when make the statement. But it all started out when I was fortunate to attend the Orange Nation, or known as Charlestown Primary School. Um, while I was there, started in 1992, when they first moved up into the Ramsbury area, where it was right next to the basketball court and it was right next to where I lived. So I was able to once again play basketball. That was the number one thing for me at that time. But there was this situation to where I think it was in grade 2 or 3 where I did some few sports meets back and forth, and then I used to finish like second and third and fourth, and I used to hate the fact that somebody was beating me. So I remember heading over into I think it was grade 3 with the same mentality, and again I was coming up short, second, third place. It was in grade 5 where they had a run from Four Seasons to town, and they used to call it like the 5K run. And they were picking the teams, and they were having people sign up. I think it was the Nevis Tourism Authority back then, signing up people. And I remember a few people at the school. They had their favorites, of course, the actual people who did the inter-primary team, to where I used to always want to be a part of the inter-primary team, to where, man, I run for sports, but how do I make the inter-primary team and stuff like that? So I used to try the 200, the 400, no luck. So I said, let me sign up for this long run because I know who's the guys to beat within the school. They had the age categories and everything. So I went, signed up. I mean, I did my little work behind the scenes in grade 5. I mean, I'm running around, jogging up and down. And like I said, I spoke to the then coach, El Camino Willett, and I said to him, he asked me, "You sure you want to sign up for this?" I tell him, I said, "Yeah." I said, "No problem." Now, in the back of my mind, this was one of my good friends, Carlston Julius, who I know he runs long. So I used to be going by him, and we used to be practicing at Grove Park like probably 5 6 p.m., and then I would come over and play basketball. And what I would find, I would mix the two as a like cross training, but at that time I didn't know that yet, but the endurance was there. So when I ran at the 5K run, I actually started out and I came third overall, and everybody was shocked because they didn't know that I could have run that long. That same year, I went on and made my first inter-primary team where I medaled. I got a silver medal there. And then I made my other inter-primary team in grade 6. So from there, it was just being a part of the environment in Charlestown Primary, to where the parents, the supporters, the teachers, everybody was on the same page. And that's I say, you know what, this feels good. This feels good to where you see the crowd, the rappers behind you. I mean, you're going up to Grove Park at the time, and you hear the rival schools saying, "Oh, plan for him, plan for him." I had parents giving me or offering me Vitamalt and stuff not to run and stuff like that. But we already was trained to where to ignore that and just go out, and the only person who is allowed to finish in front of you is orange. So so that's kind of like what drive the thing, and I mean, just seeing everybody celebrating and happy and stuff like that. It then transferred over into high school where the same thing, to where I ended up representing Charlestown Secondary School. And I mean, the same type of support. And I must shout out um, coaches Denzel Paris, who's known as Tuckett from Overbat. He became my coach. He trained me when it comes to long distances and stuff like that. So I was able to learn from him. I was a member of the Gladiators track club with Mr. Wake Daniel. So realistically, I've had some coaches with me along the journey. So When I was able to attend Monroe College, when it came to the choices of college, I met the school president, Mr. Mark Jerome, who wanted to form a track and field team. You know, when I got here, there wasn't any track and field team here at the college. He said to me, if you could get me a petition with names, then he would look into forming a team. So that one day, I remember this because I learned that the first week of school is that's when you're doing your introduction, so you don't really have a lot of you have a lot more time to do stuff. So I went, sat down in the lobby, and I got not 50 names, but I got 785 names within a 3 hour stretch. And he was so impressed that till this day, he have the list of interested persons in his office
Mhm.
because he told me he would never get rid of it.
Right.
So that's kind of like the journey in a nutshell.
Right, right. So you obviously, first of all, were a dominant force on Nevis once you had found your interest in long distance, and then by the time you decided to head over to study in Monroe or at Monroe, you had made a name for yourself, or you went into school with people knowing this young man as being a long distance runner, correct?
Yeah, because what happened is that I used to be racing in most of these local races on the island of Nevis. You know, I used to be one of the few who had the rivalry with guys from St. Kitts. So when I entered into Charleston Secondary School, I was one of the few because it's very hard to score points down in St. Kitts, especially when they have the inter high school
Oh
championship, you know.
yeah.
So it was myself, Delvon Clark, and Carlston Julius during that time would have gone down to represent Nevis and was able to medal. I mean, one of us won, one of us would place in the top three or the top two. So that's kind of like where the name start developing because you start to hear, oh well, this guy them from Nevis is coming down. The guy them from Nevis is doing this, you know.
Right,
So
right.
so we used to run in development meets down there, and then that's kind of like where the name starting to gain traction.
Shirvon Greene.
Yeah.
Plus the others, of course, right? But so then, you fast forward to you're somewhere in New York now, and you obviously enter the program as an athlete, long distance athlete, right? With a
Right.
reputation of being quite the student, quite the athlete, and then you end up dominating so many races: the 400, the 8, the 15, up to the 10,000. I forgot people run that long. Some right. So you leave being this dominant athlete, long distance runner in St. Kitts and Nevis, and you come to Monroe, and you deliver even greater success, greater number of races. What does this do for your love for the sport, and then your interest in giving back what you've done or what others had done for you? How does that shape where Shirvon is going? The experience here at Monroe.
Well, the experience here at Monroe has been a pleasant one. I must say, the staff is equally as supportive as what I had home. The flexibility, the trust by the administration, including Louis Melendez, we have Ms. Chazia West, Mark Jerome, Ms. Sandy Rodriguez, Sherez West, all of these the support systems here at the college have in place, including the president apparatus, which is Mr. Stephen Jerome. So the atmosphere at the college has been one that of a very supportive nature. Now, when I first started as an athlete here, we were in a NJSAA division, which is the National Junior College Athletic Association, which we started out as a Division 3 school to where we had to build our way up to Division 1. So during that time, I was placed in multiple events, especially when we wanted to win our region championships or the national championship. I would be running something like 4 or 5 events in one day. Yeah, you know, and I would use that based off of my my background with the distance training from back home. So being in the Division 3 at that time, we started out with like 12 athletes, and again, it was a lot to be asked for us, but we understood that it was for points purposes. Yeah, I ended up messing around with the 4 and the 800, where my primary event was the 15 and the 5K. But then I realized I won those two at the region championships for Division 3, and then that's where, after I saw the growth in the program to where, as a result of us doing so well in Division 3, we moved up to Division 2. We spent a year in Division 2, and then we went into Division 1, which we are currently at for the last, I would say, 10 years.
Very
And we
good.
have been very dominant in the Division 1 since we came onto it. I mean, we are the top school in the Northeast region. We compete against all NCAA 4-year schools that you would have seen on television, like the Clemsons, the Oregons, and the advantage this does for us is that it gets our athletes to be seen.
Yeah.
And so when they leave us, they would come here for a 2-year degree, which is an associate degree, and then they would move on into these 4-year schools. I have a few athletes in the University of Kansas, Clemson, Oregon, um, Iowa State. That's where Texas Tech, Virginia Tech, and the list goes on to where
Right.
these athletes would come and go. I must say that the Caribbean on a whole, I mean, especially Guyana and St. Kitts, to where I have some of my athletes came here, they did what they had to do, and their country, especially in Guyana, was very grateful to where they keep sending us athletes. So you know that the trust in the program is there. And I must shout out to this guy from the Guyana. His name is Lyndon Wilson and Anson Ambrose. Those are the two who would have sent me the likes of a Joanna Archer, a Claudius McCoy, a Leah Moore, and they would have came here, run the table on the program. They win every possible awards available. They carried the bulk of the female team. So that's where we kind of stand with that one.
Right. But you sound like, it seems like you're the face of the program, the track and field long distance program at Monroe. How does that make you feel? I mean, I hear you talking about, you're claiming the students, Shirvon. You're saying and that, I see the pride, and that's really heartwarming. How does that make you feel?
Well, you see, I tell the students all the time, I told them, by winning the award of Coach of the Year, this has nothing to do with me and everything to do with them. In terms of, I tell them, without them, I wouldn't be able to achieve success. We have a system in place on the team and in the college to where we pride ourselves on good, proper representation, as well as being able to go out there and perform to the best of our abilities, both in the classroom and outside the classroom. It helped a lot to where we have the athletes coming from a humble beginning to where they want the opportunity to excel. So it was very easy from the respectable families and stuff like that. The support from the parents, the support from the coaches back home, the support from everybody. So it's kind of like was easy for me. I know people always say that it seems as if I'm the face of the franchise. I told them, I said, I'm just one of the drivers of the bus. But I mean, again, I cannot move the bus without an engine. I cannot move it without the keys. And that's where the level of where these athletes would come into play.
Mm-hmm. And I respect that, and I see how humble you are, understanding your role, the collaborative role that everybody plays to making it, your school a successful representation of track and field. The thing I want to ask quickly, though, because you talk about, pulling students from various countries in the Caribbean, as it pertains to any one of those countries, but specifically St. Kitts and Nevis. Everybody like a fast race. We all love track and field, the quick races, the 100s and the 200-meter races. Your specialty is long distance. How are you attracting those those runners from St. Kitts and Nevis, or the Caribbean for that matter? How are you able to attract those, given so many are interested in the faster races?
Well, one of the advantage we hold here at the college is that we are a very diverse college. I mean, we have students coming from all over the world, worldwide, So, in fact, although my expertise is in middle distance and long distance, I coached a few sprinters in the program to success, such as Christopher Belcher, who is now running a professional contract and he ran for Team USA. I've coached Sarah Acho, who is also a sprinter, 1 and 200 meter runner. She's running for the Olympic team in Switzerland. I also coach James Dennison, who is a local from New Jersey, and he went to Iowa State University. He ran for the shoe company Hookah, and where he was the 200 meter champion. So having past success like these with these type of athletes, it was able for them to, because they do a great job, I must say, to market at the school. Wherever they go, they would have we're in the Team USA, and they would always remember Monroe College. Yeah, so the name was out there to where once a young athlete sees the success of sprinters like these, they would then follow them on Instagram. They would then ask them questions, say, hey, which school did you go to? Or I went to Monroe College. Or who's the coach at Monroe? Give me experience at Monroe College. Then they would relate the news to them.
Right.
And then by the time they get to me, these kids would be telling me, hey, I know this about the program, I know this, and I would say, but how did you know this? Oh, I spoke to Christopher Belcher. Oh, I spoke to James Dennison. I spoke to Sarah Acho, And one of the biggest turning points for our sprinting program would have came, I think it was the year of 2017, to where we had the two dominant girls and boys in the 100 meters, the 200, the 60 meters. And then that's when our team finished the highest. The girls' team finished third overall, in the highest in program history, and the boys finished fourth overall. So when they saw that, it was like, this school has sprinters, So that kind of like attract people there. Now, for me, when it comes to attracting sprinters from the island of St. Kitts and Nevis, I mean, every coach on the island know who I am, especially on Nevis. So my dear family member, Kervin Wallace, I had the privilege to be side by side with him and see how he was able to motivate and train his athletes. I also had very good ties with Mr. Wakely Daniel, as well as Timothy Keynes and the now coach of the Charleston Primary School, Bryson Queely. I learned a lot from El Camino Willett, as well as Miss Carol Ward as well. So Denzel Paris, again, can't say enough about him. So these are the people who would help also market at the school and who were able to help me along the way in terms of attracting the sprinters over into things. In fact, I have one currently with me right now. We are still working on the project, but when I'm ready to release him, you would have him here interviewing instead of me. His name is Leroy Chapman. This is one of the pride and joys that came out of Charlestown, Nevis, specifically Gingerland.
Right.
And one quick fact, we do have two campuses at Monroe College. The Bronx campus is the commuting campus, and the New Rochelle campus, where the students would live. That's where our Division 1 program stays, or the Division 1 track and field team. That's the one that I coach. The Bronx campus is the Division 3 campus, to where you can come there and develop there, and then you move up into the Division 1.
Right, good. So would you say that we there's hope for our student athletes interested in long distance? Because I hear the sprinters and the interest in the sprinters. What of the long distance runners? How are you gauging them or targeting them to be interested in Monroe or to be interested in running abroad?
Well, I would say to the long distance folks and to the long distance coaches there, there's a lot of opportunities to where scholarships are available for distance runners. Um, it's not only sprinters to where scholarship is available for throwers and stuff like that, but there's a need for distance runners because here in the United States, schools recruit athletes who can do multiple events to score at their conference or at their national championship. I just mentioned earlier when I was an athlete, I had to do five, six different events. So you show a coach the diversity in your events, then they would say, you know what? Oh, I could offer you 50%, 60%, 70% scholarship. And I always tell the athletes, hey, 60, 70, 80 is more than zero. You know? And what I think is probably missing in all of this is the fact that is the need for more distance coaches on the island. Because I believe if there were more distance coaches on the island, and I know they have, but I guess what it is that the motivation has to come to where they would be able to be hands-on with the athlete to where you would tell them, hey, this is the benefit of the distance running, but then you can't have somebody in the ears telling them, oh, you come a sprinter this just because everybody is running fast. You know, I watched some track meets on the island to where I see in the 1200 and stuff in primary school. And then when I come over to high school, I'm now seeing it's like one or two athletes taking part to where now they have to mix it, you know. So I believe if they offer incentives telling them, you know, these are the schools that is looking for distance runners. This is how much scholarship you could gain from here.
Opportunity.
Then it would be able to open up more, you know. And I think some of it too is the lack of familiarity with the event because it's only a handful of people who say, oh, well, distance running, all you do is run miles, or you would run for 20 minutes, but they don't really go down into the nitty gritty to where it has to do with preparation, with dieting, with the mental mindset. Because being a distance runner is very hard. Sprinters is very technical, but a distance runner, you have to think when you run, you know, you have to go over race strategy, pace and stuff like that, you know. So I think if the coaches on the island, because I do realize one of the problem is that you will have a sprinting coach coaching the distance, or you would have one coach in the school, which realistically it should be four coaches because that way that specific coach for the distance would be able to focus on the distance, and you shouldn't be able to cross check or cross train athletes to where okay, this athlete is going to run the 200, then they're still going to end up and run the 4 and the 8, you know. So that's where early identification begins when you have a full staff in place to where okay, you are the distance coach, you coach these group of kids in primary school and high school and see who is the distance runner between them. You shouldn't have to depend on one person from the sprinting unit to come up and vice versa.
Right, right. Brilliant recommendation and free advice, you know. Hopefully those who have the power to you know, drive change and to create opportunity for our student athletes, especially long distance runners, because that is part of your specialty. Hopefully they you know, find a door to open to allow these students to enter and shine, you know. As we start to wrap up though, I you know, I could talk with you so much longer because you share so much information. I recognize you're wearing blue. Blue represents Monroe Mustangs. What's the color code for?
Yes, the blue and gold, that's the school colors. The mascot on the hat, that's the Mustang logo.
Right.
So yeah, that's what it represent. I know we are in the heat of the moment when it comes to the playoffs, and I know the followers of my page on Facebook who know I'm a diehard Celtic fan, so I have to make it clear that the blue and gold represent Monroe College and not Golden State.
Not Golden State. Alrighty. Well, you know, when you hear from a young voice like yours, such a promising individual, I often wonder, what do you offer as advice to young people interested in doing what you do, coaching? What words of advice do you offer?
Well, I offer them the advice of do what you love. Don't let anybody discourage you. There's a lot of opportunities out there within being a young coach. You apply yourself. You'll be able to discipline. Of course, you know that comes with the territory. Is how you market yourself. Is how you're being interrelated with people. That's very, very important. In terms of staying motivated, staying through the course, I do offer a lot of assistance. So if anybody is interested, I mean, I do normally have now and again starting up some workshops to where I would be able to help. And I promised some people on the island as well that the next time I'm there, I would be able to have a few info sessions with them to offer anything. In fact, I've been in very close contact with those people in Nevis, such as the Eddie Kanes and the Eddie Richards, Kervin Wallace, you name it, I've been very involved in it. Of course, I stay in contact with the Charleston Primary School as well. So I would just offer to them, stick with what you have to do. There's a lot of opportunities there. Um, you come, university, and I know college is not for everyone, but if you have an opportunity to come in college, and this is very important, there is no difference really between the names of the colleges. At the end of the day, you're going to achieve your associates, your bachelor's, whatever you have to achieve, it's recognizable. So I know there's been stuff in the past, oh, well, I never hear about this college, so I'm not going there. But if the college is offering to pay for your education for free or giving you something, why would you go to a school that you don't really know the history behind, you don't really have the support system behind, and come to one where you say, you know what? Oh, well, that's my countryman here. That's my countrywoman here. This is what they have here. This is what the thing. I mean, it's not everything is going to be bed and roses. Yeah, you know, and in these kind of times, education takes you a long way. Yeah, you know, so of course, you do your research. I mean, it's not everybody going to have everything positive to say about one college in particular, but you do know that you have the support system. I mean, the numbers and the stats don't lie. You know. So that's my word of advice to everybody. I know coaches, to the young ones look up to you guys a lot. You have to be very positive to them. You know, don't kill their dreams by telling them, "Oh, I don't want you to go here. I don't want you to do that." You should be able to look out for them because they are a product of you. Okay, you know, the parents are depending on you to advise their kids. So, and that's kind of something to where that motivates me to where, like I said, I grew up with the driving force of my grandmother, my uncles, my aunts, and everybody like that who was being the driving force who used to tell me, hey, you're just running, running. Remember, education is there as well, you know? So all of that was there in play, you know?
Right. To keep you focused and driven, but with some direction. Sounds like you had a very good start. And I'm so impressed with your accomplishments. And one of the things that stands out for me, if nothing else, is the fact that you are priding yourself on giving back. There's this thing called paying it forward, and you know, few years ago, you along with your father spearheaded an initiative to provide students at the school with a meal. I think that was so thoughtful. What was the inspiration behind that decision?
Well, what happened is that I know there mainly they came from the international side of it to where the local students would be able to go home for Christmas and Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
And one day for I was down by my father's house and he loves to cook. I mean, that's one thing with him, calypso and cooking. For those who don't know him, his name is Glenroy Green. He loves to cook, you know, and he didn't even hesitated. I know he heard me when I was speaking on the phone with one of my athletes, and I said to them, I said, "Oh, what do you eat from the cafeteria?" And they were telling me what they eat, you know, and after I hang up the phone from them, I say, you know, this is their time they're spending from their families for Christmas and stuff like that. So I came up with the idea. I told him, I said, hey, I know you like to cook, so let's do something for them. I mean, he asked me what they eat and everything like that. I said they are from the Caribbean. So when it was kind of surprising for them because I was never telling them what's going to happen. So I came up to the school. He cooked for them. We delivered the food, and they started, I would say, 4 or 5 years ago, to where they enjoyed it so much until they said, "No, you have to call him. You have to call him." So I called him on a video. They thank him very much, and they call him the Mustang Big Man. So they would message me this year, and they would say, "Oh, am I getting food from the Mustang Big Man?" You know, and so that went way very long.
Yeah.
I must say too that my mother, most people who know her on the island of Nevis, her name is Bonnie Carey. She lives right there in Credit Road. She too would have been able to. She has a huge heart to where no matter where you go, or everybody, I tell you, I didn't even know so much people know me in Saint Kitts until I get there. They're like, "Oh, your mother calling on this, and your mother saying on this, So it was there all along, and I mean, it's just something to where, like I said, I watched my grandmother grow, um, raise me, and were able to take her advice that she gave, and to see how many people she had touched. Because back in her days, she used to work at the hospital and community affairs, and everybody used to come there. Oh, Nurse Carey, Nurse Carey. I mean, she was not a nurse, but she looks out for them, so they call her Nurse Carey, Nurse this. So it was a very good thing for me to see growing up, and I used to see the hard work and sacrifices she made for me. So I said, hey, I mean, this is probably her way of telling me, hey, I wanted to carry on my tradition,
Very good.
you know?
Yeah. You essentially have become like the patriarch of your students at Monroe, and people look up to you, and you are giving back and satisfying so many souls in the process, including the administrators at Monroe, because you've spoken highly of them as well. So it means that they have you in high stead, and continue doing what you do, Shirvon. You know, this is an example of youth excellence, and I am so proud to have had this opportunity. You have been making the headlines, okay? And so it was important to have this conversation and see how much you are, how much of a patriot you are, and how committed you are to young people. It's important to see people share stories of where you came from, what you're doing now, what your vision is for the work that you do, and the people whose lives you impact. Right?
Right. All right.
Thanks,
Thank you
Shirvon.
very
Before
much.
you go, tell us a fun fact about Shirvon. One quick fact that maybe a lot of people don't know.
The quick fact that a lot of people don't know
Right?
is that I'm a diehard Boston supporter. Everything is Boston. Everything is Boston, and I live in New York.
I'm tempted to ask why. Why Boston?
Well, what happened is that I saw, well, I'm around a lot of New Yorkers, and
Of
I
course.
tend to go against the team that they play against. And surprisingly, the first time I watched a football game, it was playing against the New England Patriots.
Mm.
And the first time I watched a baseball game, they were playing against the Boston Red Sox. So new rivalry between the both of them, and I just, for the last 24 years, that's where I'm at.
You embrace the rivalry. Look at you. Listen, Shirvon, thank you again for taking the time out to talk to us. I know you said you're on social media. People know to get you. To those who are listening here who may not have known you, how best or what's the easiest access to you? Via social media, contact number?
Um, yeah, the easiest way to get a hold of me, it would be Facebook is my first and last name, Shirvon Greene.
Okay.
It was also my phone number would be 347-675-4422, and that has WhatsApp on
Okay,
it as well.
WhatsApp. Okay. Sounds good. Cheers to you. Kudos. Keep soaring. keep impacting, keep being the patriot that you are, and I look forward to hearing great things about you. It's only up from here,
All
Shirvon.
right. And thank you for having me. Hopefully, I will be on island very soon. So I'll make some rounds. And like I always say, country above self.
Always. Country above self. Love it. Keep on striving, keep on pushing, keep on changing lives. All the best, Siobhan. Thanks for joining us on Platform and Possibilities.
All
Until
right.
next
Thank you for
time.
having me.
You're welcome. Bye. Thanks, Siobhan. Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.